This is The Daily Divide. This is The Daily Divide, a show where we pick a story from each day and give you my take. 7 days, 7 divides. Let's get into it. On Monday, the government's flagship scorecard shows a mixed bag with job seeker numbers stuck at 216,000, school achievement well off target, and hospitals under pressure, while crime emissions and emergency housing are on track. 4 of 9 goals are already at risk of being missed. And the funny thing is that one of those things that are on track is housing, because it's very difficult, I guess, to them to reduce 95% of to increase to 95% of emergency department patients seen within 6 hours to 95%. It's 74.2% right now, and health 95% fewer than 4 months for elective treatment. Right now it's 57. Very difficult. Can't get those job seeker numbers down because of all the cuts around in construction and the public service. So that's a bit of it's a risky thing. And just get a job, easy. Just get a job at your local Macca's, easy peasy. But the one easy peasy limit, and the climate tracking is under speculation and is under a lot of criticism, regardless. But specifically, the housing target, so easy to completely boot out thousands of homeless and not well-to-do people onto the street when you don't care about where they end up, because now it's at 501 where the target of the max of 800. Easy peasy. I'm not surprised, honestly, because if you scroll down, if I scroll down to the graph, it is completely plummeted, and that specific target is a microcosm for this government. And what this government is a complete disregard for this country. They're economic cannibals, and they just don't give a damn about the everyday Kiwi. They just don't. All they care about is specific numbers and specific targets, and if they get them, and if not, they'll try and lever them under sheets and sheets of other reports to hide it as much as they can because of our degrading media infrastructure and ecosystem in this country. It's becoming becoming even more easier and easier as every month passes. I mean, I haven't even mentioned the education targets, with the latest reading target of 80% across the board, reading, writing, mathematics. Current for reading is 47%, writing is 24%, and mathematics 23%. And these are all year 8 students at or above expected reading and writing mathematics level. And I'm sure that we discussed this on the weekly breakdown a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure that the complete reform of the current system of NCEA will completely fix this knot. They will not look at boosting teachers' wages. They will not look at better compensation. They will not look at more teachers. No. Let's completely boot a pretty good NCEA system, pretty good education system in NCEA, flawed to an extent, and just right. And I think this is what the National Party is now, and it might have been back then, but when I've been following politics the last couple of years, this is what the National Party is. And it's been evident since 2023. I don't like repeating myself, but I guess I am repeating myself back then. They like to put their name on things, and they talk about everything. They talk big game when it comes to infrastructure projects, but they'll never. They always coddle the Labour Party and say, well, why won't you work with us? And what that means is, we have a plan. You need to co-sign on that. We won't co-sign on yours. Transmission Gully was started by National Party, national government, national-led government specifically, and Labour went through with it, among its flaws. But when IREX happens, no, we won't, because they want to smack them Dunedin Hospital, even though they wanted, and they promise an increased capacity. No, we don't want it. We don't want it. Because they want to stamp, and I think this might be the same with, this is the same with the education system. They want to stamp their reform on it, even though NCA was a National Party. Well, don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it was a National Party vision in the 90s. Obviously changed up. They want their name on Wikipedia in years to come. I think that's all that they want. Those people, the National Party members, just want a legacy. They don't really care about where it ends up. They just want to know 20 years down the line they'll remember their name for better or for worse. Because, I don't know, they just don't. They're shallow human beings, and they've got no personality. And on Tuesday, a new Treasury paper warns the government's push to cut spending to 30% of GDP could mean fewer doctors, teachers, and lower incomes for 300,000 families. With health costs alone set to soar, officials say the plan leaves a $10 billion hole, raising fears of deep cuts to core services. Gone are the days that would have a $10 hole, would just be a rounding error. Not even that. That would be amazing. No, a $10 billion hole, all because of an arbitrary number set by a key government, or set by governments previously after the financial crisis, where our country was, I think, 3.5 to 4 million. We are, as a country, I believe, almost hitting 5. We are at 5. I think we're almost at 5.5. Our current services. Spending of GDP for public health, not public health, but public services rather. It's, I think, 32.7. Well, it's above 32%. They want to decrease it. It's not working right now at that amount. What's going to happen when they want to cut further? And this is what scares me next year. Not to go on a tangent, but this is linked to this topic. I think the government's going to win next year. I just think that it'll be close. It'll be goddamn close, and we'll have further analysis between me and Lennox on this on the election in the months to come, obviously. I think next term will be a watershed moment in this country's history. It will be asset sales galore, and it will be a complete ripping up. If you think right now is bad, I can't imagine what the next term is. If they're doing it right now, the key government was not amazing, but at least they had some competent running of this country and statesmen. You know, whatever you think about John Key. They had plans, and yes, you know, I could name you off the hilt of the amount of thing. And I've not paid attention at politics back then because I was a little child. But it is so obvious that there's a huge disconnect between that National Party and this National Party. This is a National Party of the 90s, from my opinion. In fact, even worse, there's more incompetence there. It is a pale imitation. It's obviously a pale imitation of the days back then. There's nothing really. I can't really say anything more than it is again another arbitrary number that the National Party specifically, and also the X Party, but specifically, I want to target the National Party because they're a major party. They target a specific number, damn the consequences, damn the other contributing factors, all the while so they can plaster it on their billboards that they cut spending to save the LBJ tax bail. Damn the consequences of that, of reduced public services that this paper has presented. That we will have to expect a complete downgrade of every service in the years to come if we stick with this plan. And on Wednesday, power prices are surging, with 300,000 households hit by overdue fees. Pensioners still going cold as bills climb. Shane Jones is pushing radical reforms, even renationalising electricity, while consumer groups demand a royal commission into why the market keeps failing New Zealanders. You know, when I first saw this article, obviously I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think renationalisation is going to happen. Well, if it does, if Shane Jones really does push this through, it won't be worth them gaining another term next year. I can tell you that much. But holy moly, this would. Oh my god, I'll be one of the first to applaud that man. I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's a bit of a buffoon, in my opinion. The biggest mistake that the Jonky government made was selling off shares in our three Gentailers, and it is catastrophic. And it's the result of that. I am for specific sectors being broken up, like the supermarkets, even though I am for a public-private partnership in that. When it comes to energy, it might be because of precedent, and I'm well aware that that could be the case. That might be the bias that I'm setting. Public-private partnerships obviously don't work. There has not really been a precedent set that I know of. There might be a case in New Zealand specifically, because every country's different. So don't bring me another different country. I don't want that. There's no precedent set that a public-private partnership in supermarkets has been set. So I get that there might be a bias there. But it has been obvious that a public-private partnership doesn't work because profit becomes the motive. Billions and billions of dollars has been offloaded in dividends to investors. 1.5 billion, only 1.5 billion has been set for new, or rather was spent on new infrastructure for power, new power generators. There'd be windmills and stuff like that. About 9 to 10 billion has been offloaded to investors. That's almost as much as the health budget. That is criminal. That is absolutely criminal, and that sort of money should be reinvested into making power cheaper. And so if something like this could happen, as a bottom line, honestly, if NZF make this a bottom line, I will applaud it. I'll absolutely applaud it. Do I think that will happen? No. The New Zealand First is bought and has been bought for a while, and they've shifted. They've always been like this, but they are a party of second-rate politicians rejected from other parties. On Thursday, David Seymour's reviewing warning labels on alcohol, tobacco and vaping products, sparking fears from health groups that public safety could be traded for red tape cuts. Seymour says warnings will stay, but critics warn that even small changes risk watering down hard-won protections. What can I say? What can I say without being... It's typical. It's typical, right? It's typical. It's David Seymour is he's not bought. Well, he is bought. Oh, I'm trying to find the word. Without he's a cuck for big business. He's a cuck for big business. I'm trying to find another word in my vocab brain box without using that word, but he's a cuck for business. And I'm not exactly surprised. And this whole thing about reviewing warning labels and tobacco and vaping products, specifically alcohol, it's hilarious. Is the expensiveness of red dye, specifically 3-dye printers. Oh no, fetal alcohol syndrome can wait because some businesses, well, their bottom line is not as thick. And that's why a lot of the breweries and that brewery in Wellington closed, is because they had to spend money to tell people to not drink when pregnant. And because to reduce fetal alcohol syndrome, Oh, what? That icon was made with review of the experts, and they found that's the best, more eye-catching. Wait, no, it's too expensive. We can't do that. We can't find the money. It's just absurd, and it's just so obvious that it's just it is lobby groups running that party. There's nothing more you can say on it, honestly. It reads itself, and if you can't see what it is that David Seymour doesn't care about your health. I mean, if you couldn't see it when David Seymour called smokers getting people to smoke because that's the best taxpayer you can. They're the best taxpayers. I mean, honestly, I don't know what to say. There's nothing. I mean, it's just a long list. But not only that, but the WorkSafe reforms are for one. It's the ACT Party is, and this is why they'll never be bigger than they are. They'll never get past, definitely never get past 15. I don't think they're lasting long in the double digits even. They are an elitist party in rhetoric and in action. The National Party are an elitist party, but not always in rhetoric, but in action. But to sometimes, you know, the new trains for the South and North Island is pretty good. They are full on. They're a radical right wing. They're not libertarian. They're just a reactionary farce of a party. I digress. We'll move on to Friday. On Friday, the Māori Pacifica Boys boarding school says literacy is soaring since reopening a charter school this year with demand through the roof. Tipene St. Stephen's is one of 8 new charters, part of a government plan pouring $153 million into expanding model with more schools to come. You know, I made this claim back, I think it was the second episode of the reboot of the podcast. About 2 weeks ago, I believe, that, in my opinion, the new changes to the curriculum, the booting of the NCEA, I think is a part of a wider plot to degrade the public education system and to give state schools and to make the charter school system more appealing, so they can actually they themselves instill a proper curriculum that helps students. Honestly, this is it's making me believe this more and more. There is a slow privatization of our education system. And I think this is it. I think I was on the fence before, and I thought it was a bit of a wackadoodle conspiracy theory. But I'm now convinced. I think this new education system was it might be the fact that the National Party are incompetent and they're just trying to stamp their own names into it. But it could also mean it's a joint effort between the ACT and National Party to degrade the system and to make conversing to the charter school system even more appealing, and also it makes it harder for the Labour Party competent governors. It makes it harder to appeal, because what happened before when the Labour Party went in and the ACT Party pre-2017 had a plan for charter schools, they were able to just get rid of them. And then maybe some schools, I believe there was a military academy school in Auckland, they got converted to a special character school. But there was more. I think this is going to make it, this is, the new curriculum is going to make it more difficult to abolish charter schools again, re-abolish. And I think that a lesson needs to be learned from the Labour Party, that you need to find ways yourself to make it damn difficult, because Labour's not always going to be in government. They're barely ever. And they need to find a way, I think this is to make it difficult for new economic cannibals coming into government to rip up new legislation and not just leave it to the last minute, like the living wage. Unbelievable. And on Saturday, police are investigating after an ACT candidate's campaign hoarding near Whangarei was blasted with up to 7 shotgun rounds in the middle of the night, terrifying nearby residents, including families asleep just metres away. Matt Govt has since pulled the sign down, calling the attack out of line and saying it's unfair. His friends hosting the sign were left shaken by the gunfire. 2 things might have happened here, right? 2 big things. And I'm not saying either or, because there have been instances around, even in where I live. And it's been historic instances. I can remember, I think it was like 6 years ago, on the last two elections, there were candidates for local elections getting mustaches written on. There's always been a history of graffiti or vandalising of their property, and it's not okay. So there's always been history there. And then even now, there has been other candidates having their eyes gouged out and all that stuff. And I'm sure that's happening across the country, but I'm not making light of this, because this is not shooting shotgun shells into a sign. It's either just general, we just wanted to shoot a sign, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, lol, which is not okay, or it is inciting political violence, and that is even worse. And there is a danger in this country that we could fall into the trap of political violence. We haven't yet. We're not really even circling the event horizon. I think we're a long way away from what's happening in the United States with Nancy Pelosi's husband getting home invaded with a hammer, and two local Democratic lawmakers getting shot. And then recently Charlie Kirk, a prominent political commentator and known bastard, getting shot. I don't think we're close to that point. But I do recognise that something like shooting shotgun shells into a sign, especially, and obviously when there's any, and I'm not going to speak further about Charlie Kirk or any other political violence. That's going to be a topic that we're going to discuss on the weekly breakdown with Lennox, because that's something he wants to cover. But I will say this. I'm sitting on the fence of this. I don't know if it's either just general, just a couple of wankers having a piss up and just shooting a sign, or it could be there's an underlying sense of and I don't know which one it is, and yeah, I hope it's not the latter. I really do, and I don't think this country will stomach it anyway. Just like how Australia hasn't stomached crap with those Nazis. And last but not least, on Sunday, Parliament has signed off the 2025-26 budget after an 11-hour estimates debate that saw ministers grilled on jobs, housing and climate. The marathon session was part governance, part political theatre, with sharp clashes over job creation, poverty and emissions, but also moments of genuine policy detail. In the end, the government's budget cleared its final hurdle and passed into law. Sunday, there's not much stuff on Sunday, but there was this article on RNZ talking about the three different ways in debate. I didn't watch the debate that the government, the specific government ministers used in their time. They either were repeatedly combative, like Nicola Willis. Whenever a question was asked, she would just answer with complete platitudes and complete nonsense without answering a damn question. It was like Chris Bishop, who actually answered genuinely answered questions, and you can find the RNZ article if you want to read it yourself. And Simon Watts, who was the climate change minister, who just ran for time, just played time. Got the government whips to just try and milk whatever they're talking, just playing for time, which is just dishonest nonsense. I don't know. I think it revealed. Obviously, I've not, and I keep saying this just to reveal, how young I am. I've not paid attention to this stuff only in this term. I haven't voted. I've only voted. My first vote was in 2023. So I'm not someone that, in all my history of watching politics, I've never seen this happen. I'm not going to say that and just be hyperbolic with it. But if this is normal for someone like Nicola Willis to, instead of answering the damn question, which I think just reveals that things are not going well under the hood and behind the scenes. I mean, we can see it yourselves. You don't need to open it to see it smoking, to see the engine smoking. It's bad. And if she can't answer a damn question, and it's the same with Simon Watts. I mean, I said at the start of for Monday that the climate change targets were, I think they're just a farce. They don't really care about it, and they'll just buy a bunch of pine trees in another country and just say, look at us, it's just, I just don't care about that. I've always had a love-hate with Chris Bishop. He is a former tobacco lobbyist. I'm pretty sure his family has links with the tobacco lobby. Funnily enough, I can't imagine he's the reason why the tax cuts went to Philip Morris. I mean, that could be the case, but I think it's more New Zealand first. I think it's not even a microcosm. It's just the three horsemen of the apocalypse of how you can just get around what you're doing. And the Chris Bishop's the most genuine one. And I think the stuff that if you want to play as Nicola Willis, you're going to pull some very targeted questions. And she's just not a good political operator, full stop. Anyway, but other than that, a special mention. Te Pāti Māori MP Tākuta Ferris is standing by his controversial social media posts claiming only Māori should campaign in Māori electorates, despite his party apologising last week at the remarks which singled out Labour volunteers over other ethnicities has sparked accusations of racism, while Ferris insists he's defending Māori voices. Oh my God. If I recorded a video on this, which I did consider doing, when he doubled down, I would be way less restrained on this than I am right now. Let me be clear right now. This flip-flopping that Chris Hipkins is doing, or the Chippy, or whatever people call him, I call him Chris, calling it unhelpful, is really underselling it for the Labour Party, but in terms of straight up fact, it's more unhelpful and more racist. And the amount of the sort of rhetoric that came out in his I don't want to make claims, but his 7-minute spiral in Midnight was bloody tantamount to great replacement theory stuff. I mean, when it first came out, right? That was bad enough. Came out, I believe, it was a day before the election, the by-election rather. I think it was on Friday. I've got no great memory, but when that came out, I looked at my phone and went, "Oh my God, what the hell? What the hell is this?" And my immediate thought was, "Holy God, Labour has to work with this. This is political fodder for the right that they can play into, for good or for worst." And this is bad. This is really bad. But I fully expected, and when Te Pāti Māori rightly apologised for this, I thought, okay, well, they're going to tell. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, they're going to tell him, look, lay low. If you're not going to apologise, just don't say a thing. Just zip it. Just lay low. Don't say anything. Don't attend any meetings. Just lay low for a good 1 to 2 weeks at least. Did he do that? No. Days after, he decided to release a 7-minute, or I think it was an Instagram live, but it was a 7-minute video of him doubling, not even defending himself, doubling down. I just wonder. Look, Te Pāti Māori are trying to get into the general role, right? They're trying to get into the general role. What are they? I can't think. Like, I had a clearer mind about this last week, but I've just sat on like, how do they think this is okay? And I don't think that they think this is okay, because they are running in the, like I said, they're going to run in the general. Tamahida, I believe, is going to run in Kelston. I'll just leave it like this, right? I think the coyness that some left commentators saying that this is not helpful, I think, is really dangerous. The sort of rhetoric that he said was just borderline racist, and I'll be honest, the biggest argument against Māori seats that I've ever seen in my life. I'm not against Māori seats. I'm not against Māori wards. At all, not against them at all. But I can see this is the biggest argument against it, and if anybody can't recognise the danger of this sort of rhetoric, this reactionary rhetoric, this is borderline, not even borderline, sorry, not even going to use that sort of language. It is reactionary rhetoric, and not being upfront and being about this and saying this is racist, this is abhorrent, and yes, the fact that he's doubled down, there should be even more consequences. Whatever how the Te Pāti Māori is structured, there needs to be consequences around this. There needs to be something, and obviously he's an elected member. It's not like Darling Tana, where you can waka jump someone like him. He's an elected member, of course. But if he's not going to apologise and double down, he needs to leave the party. I say that not just because of Labour, but this will hold a message to Te Pāti Māori among the general voter, especially in the general role. Look, this might energise the Māori role. I'm not Māori myself. I'm talking extensively in the general role. This is poison for them, not just for Labour, Labour and the Greens, and also TPM themselves. This is absolute poison, and if they want any chance of getting to 5%, they need to get rid of him. They need to get rid of him if he won't apologise. If he continues to defend himself, there will be, and it's already stuck. It's already stuck, of course. And I'm not saying that. I'm not someone that tries to be a centrist about the left-leaning parties and say that, like, oh my God, you can't be called a communist, so you can't do capital gain. I'm not that sort of person. If you know me, I'm not that guy. This is not about that. This is on principle. What he said was racist. If you want to apologise, if it was in the Labour Party, he'd get bollocked. He would get bollocked, absolutely. And this is a concerning thing that he's been given a lot of leeway. Recently, he'd get bollocked, probably maybe not in the 80s. Different time, I guess. And if I was the leaders, if I was Rawiri Waititi, if I was Debbie Ngāwera Paka, not great pronunciation, eh? I would really be more upfront, be really on top of this. And the fact that he didn't attend a sitting of Parliament after the fact was not great. It was not great at all. And I don't care there's a reason, they were at a hui and that. That's not a great look. That's a terrible perception. And this message will be stuck to the Māori Party and by extension the other two parties going into election year. And it really, really, really is really unhelpful. And if you were talking to me last week about this, when it first happened, I would be absolutely fuming. And I am angry now, but I'm a bit more cooled down. I don't know. It just seems, something like this really seems like something that could get the campaign to get this government out of office fall short. There is a danger